Today I'll be talking about automation intelligence and how this can improve the delivery of SLAs to the business. Importantly, how it can remove many of the risks we have today in our operating environment and allow us to deliver the high quality services that the business deserves. Workload automation is critical to a well-run business. We define and agree service levels to the enterprise so that it can plan for efficient operations and maximize profitability. Any late delivery, or worse, failure to deliver the results to the business, have major impacts on the company. If this failure is publicly visible, then the brand can be damaged, and this can have significant impacts on future profitability. As we'll see very soon, the majority of organizations have acquired multiple automation technologies over their lifetime through M&A activity for specific facilities or a natural desire to not rely on a single vendor. However, this situation creates a fragile operating environment because our business processes span technologies controlled by these different automation engines. As I already mentioned, 60% of large organizations consume multiple automation technologies, often from different vendors. An EMA Research survey also found that 3/4 of those organizations have their critical business processes spanning these technologies, and over 1/3 of those reported significant challenges in delivering these services through those technologies. But changing these tools has always been deemed too high risk for the business, as they effectively keep the lights on for the enterprise. So the status quo is maintained. We end up expending a lot of resources on trying to mitigate the risks that this situation creates. Most organizations tie up staff to more closely monitor these processes and set up standardized operating procedures to mitigate the impacts and return to normal service as soon as possible. But the lack of visibility across the scheduling engines, or in fact within a single engine when the business process is complex and held in multiple workflows, makes that very difficult, often resulting in inefficiencies, human error, and ultimately delays in delivering results. Another area that impacts our ability to deliver is when schedule changes are required. This same lack of visibility means that it's very difficult to understand the impacts of what sometimes seems to be very minor scheduling changes to the delivery of critical SLAs. Effectively having multiple islands of automation, whether from multiple instances from a single vendor, multiple vendors, or disconnected automation across mainframe and distributed, they're all making life difficult. I mentioned that simply standardizing scheduling is not always the answer. Changing a scheduler is seen by organizations as high risk and high cost, especially as everything is running today. What Workload Automation Intelligence offers is the ability to connect multiple scheduling engines from several different vendors to be able to understand and monitor the delivery of SLAs to the business, connecting all the existing investments, but now providing the visibility across all our infrastructure to deliver those business services better. Across those automation engines, from mainframe to distributed, from Broadcom, IBM, Tidal, and soon BMC, as well as any custom automation solutions you might have, automation intelligence resolves these challenges. Firstly, it combines the data across those engines, giving you a single point of view for all things workload. It allows you to define the SLAs you've agreed with the business, and it then discovers the dependencies that exist across all of our scheduling environments to deliver those SLAs. It gives greater insight into the workload being run and allows us to make changes to improve delivery with confidence of outcome before we apply it. When things do go wrong, it provides dynamic critical path across all of the workloads impacting the SLA delivery, so we can focus our efforts where it will impact SLA. It allows us to monitor not just the jobs that are scheduled, but also by the business processes we're undertaking, creating a higher level view that can be used in operations, but also shared with the wider business. And importantly, it is always monitoring for the outcome of the SLA, constantly predicting that outcome. Once a risk to delivery is determined, you're informed, often giving sufficient time to resolve the issue before it impacts the business. Lastly, it allows us to model potential changes across these environments to understand the impacts to SLAs before being applied to production, eliminating the risk we have when schedule changes are required. If we do nothing, then we maintain the status quo. We'll impact efficiency across the business as SLA breaches impact the operating model of the enterprise. To attempt to mitigate this, we'll continue to invest more human capital, not only increasing our cost of operation, but taking resources away from driving new innovations. And this drag on operations will impact the potential to capture more income through the increased use of innovation. As EMA Research highlighted, our workload automation data is a rich source of valuable information that should be used to advise a broad array of decision making. So there is a way forward without having to change all the tools we rely on so much today, and that is automation intelligence. More from EMA. Their survey showed that it is possible to improve. Over half of companies adopting automation intelligence found that their management of automation and the SLAs that it delivers got better. More importantly, these organisations discovered previously unseen threats to delivering their SLAs and could stop them from ever impacting the business. I wanted to add a little bit more colour to the EMA research, so I thought I'd go through a few of our customer stories so you can see the potential for your organisation. Our first customer is in financial services. They used a single workload automation engine, but had multiple instances of that engine running. Their business processes were complex, often containing hundreds if not thousands of individual jobs to complete the processing. A lack of visibility across the scheduling environment was a challenge. Not seeing the jobs under their control, but how they all related to each other, the criticality of jobs in delivering the core SLAs to the business. When problems and delays occurred, they lacked the ability to understand the impact of those critical SLAs, but also in being able to predict when results would actually be delivered. A key process, if delayed, would stop their traders from being able to effectively trade in the market open. And this had the potential of millions of dollars of risk, but also the impact to their brand and to lose custom to their competitors. They had two main areas of improvement. The ability to simulate the impact of a schedule change on all SLAs prior to going to production was key. Like most operations teams, the workload is very complex, and often what seemed an insignificant change had dramatic impacts to the delivery of results. But also, with the detailed analytics of what runs today and the modelling capability, they're able to safely make changes to reduce the batch cycles on their complex workloads, something that was never available to them before. There was always the fear to make changes because of the unforeseen impact to their SLAs. The outcome? Avoidance of millions of dollars of risk exposure is the headline. But they now have visibility and control over everything that is being delivered, and they can make change with confidence, either to adopt a new technology or to change their processes. This investment bank, like many organisations, had different scheduling engines across mainframe and distributed. And this created two sources of truth when it came to delivering of services. And they had no ability to monitor what was happening from a business perspective, with the workload being controlled over those two engines. By having the single point of view across these engines and the centralised analytics on what this meant from an SLA perspective, this shortened their mean time to repair when issues occurred. The dynamic critical path allowed them to focus on what would have an impact to the SLA breach. But the earlier alerting to those potential breaches, they were also able to reduce the number of SLA issues that actually impacted the business. Ultimately, they freed resources and operations to work on more strategic projects and began delivering SLA's critical processing even earlier to the business. This insurance company, like the previous customer, operated engines across both mainframe and distributed. They could not determine with any accuracy the impact of a change to an SLA, but they also needed to be able to apply changes to scheduling at very short notice. And this combination was a serious problem to constantly deliver the SLAs the business demanded. The single point of view across these scheduling engines and the ability to accurately predict the impact of change on service deliveries was critical to the company. Overall, they got much better at delivering the services, but also in predicting to the business how late processing would be if it was beyond their control to deliver on time. Ultimately, they became confident in applying those near real-time scheduling changes and how they would impact SLAs. This bank consumed workload automation from multiple vendors. They continuously work to improve business resiliency by maintaining critical business functions, thereby minimizing financial risk for both itself and its clients. Optimizing its workload environment is a key part of this strategy, since many of the day-to-day business activities rely heavily on automated workload processes. Any disruption to the workload environment directly impacts service levels and the ability of the business to complete transactions and earn revenue. However, with a lack of visibility across these two vendors, it was very difficult to manage. They were not able to predict with any level of confidence what delays might happen or how long they would be in effect for, and they could not predict the impact to their SLAs. There was no visibility of the cross-dependencies in core business processes spanning these two vendors, which meant in many instances they were running blind. A single point of view was essential, but the management of critical SLAs that spanned processing across these vendors was critical. It reduced significantly the human capital to operate the environment, but more importantly, it allowed them to become proactive in delivering services, having enough time from the identification of a risk to the SLA to resolving it before impacting the business. Our Workload Automation Intelligence is a leading supplier in the market, recognized by the analyst firms as providing significant value to businesses. We are the sole provider of this type of technology, allowing a single point of view and SLA management that spans multiple vendor solutions as well as multiple instances of the same solution. Not only do analysts rate the solution, but it is already in use in many of the most complex operating environments for some of the most demanding enterprises in the world. Broadcom provides significant advantages to your organization when it comes to automation. The leading provider of intelligent automation, supported by a comprehensive ecosystem to expand your automation policies right across the business, that scales and won't let you down. Evolving automation with analytics and machine learning that extends right across the organization, supporting DevOps, big data and cloud programs, allows you to increase the adoption of automation in all areas of your business with complete confidence. Thank you for your time today. I hope you found automation intelligence interesting. To continue the journey, please visit our website at broadcom.com.